Just sorting through the rear brakes. Now when I bought this car I was told that the at least the rear had been redone in terms of the linings, and also the internal face of the drum had also been machined. And of course these, having been machined, these actually fit the new machine surface, so they're fine. Of course this has sat there for goodness knows how many years. It's covered in rust. It does come off. And whilst it's quite heavy, it comes off with a good wire brush on a grinder. And you can see here I've cleaned this up, cleaned the surface of this up with a grinder. I've just killed surface rust with phosphoric acid, and I'll probably wait 24 hours and then give that a coat of heat resistant black, just to stop it from getting further rust on it sometime in the future. So the rear brakes are looking okay. Once I clean them up, I'll put them back on the car, so they're pretty well ready. Front brakes, I'm not ready to put them on yet. I was just trying to make sure I had all the components, which I now think I've sorted out what I need to put the front brakes on. Their linings aren't too bad. They don't look like they're brand new linings, although they're a bonded lining. Until I clean them up, I'm not too sure. Not even too sure what the surface of the drum's like, but I'm not ready to put those on yet. I just wanted to make sure I had the pieces. So at this stage I've got enough pieces in all the boxes to assemble the rear brakes once I've finished cleaning them up. I've fitted up the shoes to the rear brake, greased the adjusters, put copper grease inside each of these, make sure they're lubricated. Cleaned up the drum. There's the drum. A bit of high temperature paint on the outside. The drums have been machined, so there's very little grooving left at all in that. So it has new bonded linings, and they've been drums have been machined to fit. So that's good. Getting the shoes on is a little bit of a task, and it's because of these springs. Normally I'm used to springs that just got the loop on one end and something like this on the other, which means you hook one end in and then you stretch the spring to locate it into the other shoe. You can't do that with this, although I've got a few spare springs, and I've seen where some of these have actually been bent around at a tremendous angle, so someone has tried to do them in situ. Now I started to do that and worked out I couldn't. The way to do it, for those who don't know, is to put the springs in first, as in like that. That's the way they go. I'll just put the other spring in. Now, you put them in first, then you feed it up to the back plate. And I started with the adjuster end first, located the bottom, and then using a combination of these screwdrivers, just levering these up to go onto the fittings. Once you've got one side on, then it's just a case of manoeuvring this around to get the bottom one once again up under there, and then lever, and I use the hub itself to assist in levering the top shoe up. goes on actually relatively easy. It certainly doesn't go on very well when you I started off just by putting that one in and then located that on fine, and then I worked out that I actually couldn't get the spring located once the shoes were on the back plate, and it's because of the design. So you've actually got to bend the shoe back like that to poke that through. So anyway, that's how it goes on. Not hard when you work it out. The hub, easy enough to go on. It's been backed off. So this goes on, and of course you've got to tap it on. It's got a bit of a recess there over the hub. I haven't got a hammer with me at the moment. I'll tap that on in a second and then put the two locking screws in. So easy enough when you know how. When you don't know how, it can be a little bit troublesome. The front brakes are quite straightforward to reassemble. Once again, clean them up. The shoes went on basically the same as the rear shoes. It's just a case of putting the springs on the shoes first and then feeding the shoes up to the mechanism. Now, I don't have the hydraulic component operating yet, but everything else is in place, so I won't actually put the cover plate on, or actually the brake drum itself, not a cover plate, but that's it. It's all cleaned up, ready to go on. The shoes are fine. The drum itself cleaned up okay. There's no scoring on that, so the front brakes are more than adequate. I haven't, apart from greased the bearings, I actually haven't tightened anything up yet. I'm waiting until I compress the springs, so when I do that I'll actually connect the linkages up and put the drum on and adjust the bearings. So but at this stage all the brake mechanism is in place, and I've done the other side, it's just the same, and I'm just waiting for the engine, or waiting for myself to reassemble the engine so I can put some weight on the suspension and then compress the springs. So that is yet to come. Now I used 2000 to flat the paint, 2000 wet. That took quite some time to actually go over the whole surface and make sure all the minor imperfections were taken out. That was followed by 3000. Now I don't normally go to 3000, that was a suggestion made by my paint supplier. He thought it'd be a good idea to go down to 3000 before I started buffing, so I've done that. Didn't take as long, only a couple of hours. All you're doing is removing the scratches from the previous paper. So that has now been followed by buffing. Now I haven't buffed the top here. I'll just get down off my little stand here. But I've hand buffed the front. This is only the first step in, and I've showed you before, first step in a 4-step process. The surface has come up quite well, so I'm hoping that the rest of the car will come up as good as that. You can see where it's just finished there. So this is all done by hand. Obviously some parts of the car I'll do by hand because it's a bit hard to get my machine into any of those. The roof, of course, I'll do this with my dual action polisher. But at this stage the surface is coming up quite fine. I'm more than happy with the finish on that, so I'll proceed. Whether this ends up any more glossy with the remaining buffing compounds, probably will a little bit, There's a few bits in here that I could improve even with the first cut, so I'll see how I go. I've finished doing the first buff of the car. The Juco's come up alright. I'm not going to get it perfect, but it will do for what I'm after. The gloss so far is quite good. I've still got a fair way to go on the buffing process, but I've decided to stop for the moment until I actually fit the windows. Now, I've just got those sitting in place at the moment. They're not actually put in their permanent positions, but I've got to get the rubbers to, the seals to go across the tops of the doors. In fact, I've only just bought them. So I've got to mount those properly and also mount the rear windows. So I thought that seeing I'm doing that, I've got my hands all over this, and rather than finish the buffing process, get it nice and shiny, and then start to work all over it and put prints all over it, it's better to wait until I finish all of that. If this had been done in 2-pack, of course it wouldn't matter, it'd be quite hard, but it's not 2-pack, it's acrylic, so it's subject to all sorts of problems, particularly with black in terms of dust. Now this has been sitting here for a couple of weeks, I've been away. I've had it covered up, but there's a fine layer of dust underneath. If it was any other colour you wouldn't see it, and you can't even see it at all on the white, but on black you can see everything. I think I'm going to come to regret painting this car black, but that's just the way it is. I wanted to try a dark colour and see what I could do. So anyway, I'm quite happy with it at this stage. It will do. It is not perfect, but the gloss, when you stand back from the car, it looks quite good even as it is. So, and as I say, I've got a little way to go in terms of finalising the buffing. So anyway, at this stage I'm going to try and fit the windows. I've got the rubbers for the rear, I've got the rubbers for here, so I've just got the rubbers for the tops of the doors. Still working out getting the rubbers for the quarter vent. I've got the windscreen rubber, and I've also got seeing I've pulled the windscreen frame apart, I've got the rubber inside the frame to fit, so that's going to be an awkward process, but as I say, I'll probably end up with finger marks and perhaps little other marks on the Juco when I try to fit that. So anyway, that's the next process.